The night was calm, with only the soft rustling of leaves breaking the silence. The stars above shimmered like tiny diamonds scattered across a black velvet sheet. Alex Carter sat in his backyard peering through his telescope. He loved stargazing. It gave him a sense of peace, a chance to escape the chaos of everyday life. His small house on the outskirts of Colorado Springs offered a perfect view of the night sky. Far from the city lights that often drowned out the stars, Alex adjusted the focus of his telescope. Scanning the vast expanse above, he wasn't looking for anything specific, just enjoying the beauty of the universe. But then something unusual caught his eye. A streak of light moved across the sky, faster than any meteor he had ever seen. It didn't fade away like most shooting stars. Instead, it seemed to grow brighter as it descended toward Earth. Alex's heart raced. Whatever it wasn't natural. The object disappeared behind a cluster of trees near the edge of the forest. For a moment, Alex hesitated. Should he investigate? The rational part of him said no, it could be dangerous. But curiosity tugged at him. He grabbed a flashlight and a jacket, locked his house, and headed toward the woods. The forest was eerily quiet as Alex stepped onto the narrow trail. The beam of his flashlight cut through the darkness, revealing twisted roots and patches of moss-covered ground. He walked cautiously, his footsteps crunching softly against the dry leaves. The air felt colder here, and an unsettling feeling crept over him. Something about this place felt wrong. After about 10 minutes of walking, Alex noticed a faint glow ahead. It pulsed rhythmically, like the beating of a giant heart. He quickened his pace, drawn by both fascination and fear. As he approached, the source of the light came into view. It was a crater roughly 20 feet wide, glowing with an otherworldly blue hue. The edges of the crater were smooth, almost melted, and the surrounding trees leaned away as if repelled by some unseen force. Alex crouched at the edge, shining his flashlight into the pit. The light reflected off something metallic buried deep within. He reached out instinctively, his fingers brushing against the surface. It was warm to the touch, vibrating faintly, as though alive. Before he could pull back, a deafening hum filled the air. The ground beneath him trembled, and suddenly a massive claw shot out from the crater. The claw was unlike anything Alex had ever seen. Its segments gleamed with an iridescent sheen, each joint moving with mechanical precision. It wrapped around his torso before he could react, lifting him high off the ground. Alex screamed, thrashing wildly, but the grip was unyielding. Panic surged through him as he was carried upward, the forest shrinking below him. Moments later, he found himself inside a strange structure, a spacecraft, he realized with a jolt. The interior was vast and dimly lit, with walls that seemed to shift and ripple like liquid metal. Strange symbols glowed faintly along the surfaces, pulsating in sync with the hum that filled the air. Towering figures moved about the room, their forms insect-like yet somehow elegant. They stood at least 8 feet tall, with elongated limbs and multiple joints. Their heads were adorned with large, multifaceted eyes that reflected the faint light. Alex struggled futilely, his shouts echoing in the cavernous space. One of the creatures turned its attention to him, tilting its head as if studying an interesting specimen. It made a series of clicking sounds, which Alex assumed was some form of communication. Another creature approached, holding what looked like a long, slender rod. It extended the device toward Alex, emitting a soft buzzing sound. Immediately, Alex felt a strange sensation wash over him, a mix of numbness and tingling. As though his body had been scanned, the aliens exchanged more clicks and hums, their movements deliberate and coordinated. Then, without warning, the claw released him, dropping him onto a cold, hard surface. Alex landed awkwardly, wincing as pain shot through his knees. He scrambled backward, trying to put distance between himself and the towering beings, but there was nowhere to go. The room was enclosed, with no visible exits. One of the aliens stepped closer, its clawed appendages twitching slightly. Alex froze, staring up at the creature. Its gaze was unreadable, its expression alien. For a moment, they simply stared at each other, human and extraterrestrial, separated by unimaginable differences. Then the alien raised one of its limbs and pointed toward a doorway that had appeared in the wall. Alex hesitated, unsure of what to do. When the alien repeated the gesture, more insistently this time, Alex reluctantly got to his feet and shuffled. Forward, beyond the doorway lay another chamber, smaller but equally strange. The floor was covered in a grid of glowing lines, shifting colors as if alive. In the center of the room stood a platform, surrounded by floating orbs of light. Alex glanced back at the alien, who remained motionless, watching him intently. Taking a deep breath, he stepped onto the platform. As soon as his foot touched the surface, the orbs began to move, swirling around him in intricate patterns. Alex felt a surge of energy course through the room, raising the hairs on his arms. The orbs emitted a low hum, growing louder with each passing second. Suddenly, one of them darted toward him, stopping just inches from his face. It hovered there, pulsating rapidly, before zipping away again. Alex's mind raced. What did these creatures want from him? Was this some kind of experiment? Or worse, were they planning to dissect him? Fear gripped him, but he forced himself to stay calm. Panicking wouldn't help. He needed to think clearly, to observe and adapt. The aliens continued to watch silently, their multifaceted eyes tracking his every movement. Alex noticed that whenever he reacted to the orbs or the changing patterns on the floor, the creatures clicked and hummed more frequently, as if responding to his actions. It dawned on him that they might be testing him, evaluating how he responded to stimuli. Determined not to appear helpless, Alex started mimicking their behavior, tapping his fingers rhythmically against his leg and making soft noises under his breath. To his surprise, the aliens seemed intrigued. One of them tilted its head again. Making a series of rapid clicks, the orbs slowed their movements, forming a circle around Alex. He took this as a sign of approval and continued experimenting, stepping carefully across the grid and observing how the lights reacted. Each interaction felt like solving a puzzle, and slowly, Alex began to understand the rules of this bizarre game. Hours passed, or maybe it was only minutes. Time seemed distorted in this place. Alex's initial terror gave way to a strange sort. A focus. He was no longer just a frightened man trapped in an alien ship. He was a participant navigating challenges that pushed his limits. And though he couldn't explain why, he sensed that surviving this ordeal depended entirely on his ability to adapt. When the trial finally ended, the aliens ushered him back to the main chamber. Exhausted but alive, Alex collapsed onto the cold floor, his mind reeling from everything he had experienced. Little did he know this was only the beginning. The next time Alex opened his eyes, he found himself in a dimly lit room. The walls were smooth and metallic, just like the rest of the alien ship, but this space felt different, smaller, more confined. His body ached from the previous ordeal, and his head throbbed as if he'd been running for hours without stopping. He sat up slowly, blinking to adjust to the faint light. That's when he noticed someone else in the room. A young woman with short brown hair and tired eyes sat cross-legged on the floor a few feet away. She wore a simple t-shirt and jeans, much like Alex, but her clothes were torn and dirty, as though she'd been through something rough. When she saw him move, she turned her head sharply, her expression wary. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice low and cautious. "Alex," he replied, his throat dry. "What's your name, Emily?" she said after a moment's hesitation. Her tone softened slightly, though suspicion still lingered in her gaze. "How did they get you?" "They grabbed me last night," Alex explained, rubbing his temples. "I was stargazing, I guess. Saw something fall from the sky and went to check it out. Next thing I know, I'm here." He paused, looking around. "What about you? How long have you been here?" "A few days," Emily said, her voice heavy with exhaustion. "I don't even remember exactly how they took me. One minute I was walking home, and the next—" She trailed off, shaking her head. "They've been running tests on me, or at least that's what it feels like. Trials, puzzles, weird stuff." Alex nodded, recalling his own experience in the chamber with the glowing orbs. "Yeah, I think they're testing us. Seeing how we react?" Emily raised an eyebrow. "You figured that out already? Took me a while to piece it together. I'm not sure I've figured anything out, Alex admitted, but I think they're watching us closely. Every little thing we do seems to matter. Before Emily could respond, the wall opposite them slid open with a soft hiss. Two of the insect-like aliens entered, their movements precise and mechanical. They didn't speak, or at least not in any way Alex or Emily could understand, but their presence demanded attention. One of them gestured toward the doorway, its clawed limb extending outward. "Guess they want us to follow," Alex muttered, getting to his feet. Emily stood up too, brushing dust off her pants. Together they walked cautiously toward the opening, flanked by the towering creatures. The hallway beyond was long and narrow, illuminated by the same shifting glow that seemed to pulse through the entire ship. As they moved, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that they were being led somewhere important. The aliens' clicks and hums echoed softly, creating an unsettling rhythm that matched the steady hum of the ship itself. Eventually, they arrived at another chamber, a large, circular arena unlike anything Alex had seen before. The floor was covered in intricate patterns, glowing faintly in shades of blue and green. Along the edges of the room, strange devices hovered silently, their purposes unclear. In the center of the arena stood a series of obstacles, platforms, suspended midair, laser beams crisscrossing in unpredictable patterns, and sections of the floor that shimmered ominously, as though hiding some kind of trap. "This doesn't look good," Emily whispered, her voice tense. "Stay calm," Alex replied, though his own nerves were fraying. "We'll figure it out." One of the aliens approached them, holding what looked like a thin, elongated rod. It pointed the device at Alex first, emitting a soft buzz. Alex felt a tingling sensation wash over him, similar to what he'd experienced earlier. Then the alien turned to Emily and repeated the process. Once it was done, the creature stepped back. Clicking loudly without warning, the arena came to life. The glowing patterns on the floor began to shift, forming pathways that appeared and disappeared randomly. The hovering devices started moving, projecting beams of light that darted across the room. A loud hum filled the air, signaling the start of whatever challenge lay ahead. "You ready for this?" Alex asked, glancing at Emily. "As ready as I'll ever be," she said, squaring her shoulders. "Let's go." The first obstacle was a series of floating platforms arranged in a zigzag pattern. Alex took a deep breath and stepped onto the nearest one. It wobbled slightly under his weight, but held firm. Encouraged, he moved to the next platform, then the next, keeping his balance as best he could. Behind him, Emily followed suit, her movements quick and agile. When they reached the end of the platform sequence, a new challenge awaited, a grid of laser beams that shifted rapidly, blocking their path forward. Alex studied the pattern carefully, timing his movements to slip through the gaps. He managed to avoid most of the beams, but one grazed his arm, leaving a sharp sting. He winced, but kept going, determined not to let pain slow him down. Emily joined him on the other side, breathing heavily. "That was close," she said, rubbing her shoulder where a beam had nearly hit her. "Too close," Alex agreed. "But we're not done yet." Ahead of them, the floor shimmered ominously. Alex hesitated, unsure whether it was safe to step on. He bent down to examine it more closely, noticing faint cracks beneath the surface. Suddenly, a section of the floor collapsed, revealing a pit filled with jagged spikes. Alex stumbled backward, his heart pounding. "Careful," Emily warned. "It's booby-trapped." "Got it," Alex said, nodding. He scanned the area, searching for a safe route. Spotting a narrow ledge along the edge of the pit, he motioned for Emily to follow. They crept along the ledge, their footsteps careful and deliberate. Halfway across, Alex's foot slipped, sending a shower of small rocks tumbling into the abyss below. He caught himself just in time, his fingers gripping the edge tightly. Emily grabbed his arm, helping him regain his footing. "Thanks," Alex said once he was steady again. "I owe you one." "You can pay me back later," Emily replied with a small smile. "For now, let's just survive this." The final obstacle was a wall covered in glowing symbols. Alex recognized some of them from earlier. They seemed to represent instructions or clues. He touched one of the symbols experimentally, and a hidden panel slid open, revealing a lever inside. Pulling the lever caused the wall to split apart, revealing a doorway beyond. "We made it," Emily said, relief washing over her face, but before they could celebrate, the aliens reappeared, clicking and humming excitedly. One of them approached, holding a small object in its clawed hand. It placed the object on the ground between them and backed away. Alex picked it up cautiously, turning it over in his hands. It was a cube, smooth and metallic, with a single glowing button on top. "What do you think it is?" Emily asked, leaning closer to inspect it. "No idea," Alex admitted. "But I have a feeling it's important." As they examined the cube, the aliens ushered them back to their holding cell. The door slid shut behind them, leaving Alex and Emily alone once more. Exhausted but triumphant, they sank to the floor, their minds racing with questions. What was all that about? Emily wondered aloud, "Why are they putting us through these trials?" "I don't know," Alex said, shaking his head. "But I think they're studying us. Testing how we solve problems, how we adapt." Emily frowned. "Adapt to what? What's the point of all this?" "I wish I had answers," Alex said quietly. "But for now, all we can do is keep going. Survive each test, one step at a time." Emily nodded, her expression thoughtful. "You're right, we'll figure it out eventually. Together." As they sat there, recovering from the trial, Alex couldn't help but feel a flicker of hope. Despite the danger and uncertainty, they had managed to work together, relying on each other's strengths to overcome impossible odds, whatever lay ahead. He knew they would face it as a team, and maybe, just maybe, that teamwork was exactly what the aliens wanted to see. The next few days blurred together for Alex and Emily. The aliens kept them in the holding cell, feeding them strange, tasteless food that came in gel-like packets. They weren't given any tools or comforts, just the cold, metallic walls and each other's company. Despite the monotony, Alex and Emily spent their time talking, trying to piece together what they knew about their captors. "They're not just random," Emily said one day, her voice quiet but firm. "There's a pattern to everything they do. Every trial, every test, it's all connected." Alex nodded, leaning back against the wall. "Yeah, I think you're right. But what's the end game? Are they trying to learn about us, or are we part of something bigger?" "I don't know," Emily admitted, brushing a strand of hair out of her face. "But I've been thinking maybe they're preparing for something? Something big? Like what?" Alex asked, frowning. "An invasion? A war?" Emily hesitated before answering. Maybe they're testing us because they need help. You saw how interested they were when we solved those puzzles. They didn't hurt us, they rewarded us." Alex thought about that for a moment. It was true. The aliens hadn't harmed them outright, even though they clearly had the power to do so. Instead, they seemed to observe, analyze, and adapt based on human behavior. Still, it was hard to trust creatures who treated them like lab rats. Before they could delve deeper into the conversation, the wall slid open again. 2 aliens entered, their movements as precise as ever. One of them held a glowing rod in its clawed hand, pointing toward the doorway. Alex and Emily exchanged a glance, then stood up and followed silently. This time, they were led to a different arena, one larger and more complex than the last. The room was filled with towering structures that looked almost like buildings, their surfaces covered in glowing panels and shifting patterns. Floating drones zipped through the air, projecting beams of light that crisscrossed unpredictably. At the far end of the arena, a massive platform loomed, surrounded by energy fields that pulsed with a faint hum. "This doesn't look good," Alex muttered under his breath. "No kidding," Emily replied, her eyes scanning the room. "But we've made it through worse." As soon as they stepped inside, the doors sealed shut behind them. A loud hum filled the air, signaling the start of the trial. Almost immediately, the drones began firing bursts of energy at them. Alex ducked. Instinctively, pulling Emily down with him as a bolt of light sizzled past where they'd been standing. "We can't stay here," Alex shouted over the noise. "We need to move." They scrambled to their feet and sprinted toward the nearest structure, using it as cover. The drones adjusted their aim, sending more blasts in their direction. Alex peeked around the corner, trying to spot a safe route. The platform at the far end seemed impossibly far away, but he knew they had no choice but to reach it. "Okay," he said, turning to Emily. "Here's the plan. We'll use these buildings as shields and zigzag our way across. Stay low and keep moving." Emily nodded, gripping the edge of the structure tightly. "Got it, let's go." They darted from one building to the next, dodging energy blasts and leaping over sections of the floor that shimmered ominously. Twice, Alex slipped on patches of smooth, slippery material, nearly falling into hidden traps below. Each time, Emily grabbed his arm, pulling him back to safety. "You're going to get yourself killed," she said half-jokingly as they crouched. "Behind another structure. Not today," Alex replied with a grin, though his heart was racing. "Let's keep going." The closer they got to the platform, the harder the trial became. The drones multiplied, their movements faster and more erratic. The energy field surrounding the platform crackled menacingly, blocking their path. Alex studied the setup carefully. "Searching for a way through, there," he exclaimed suddenly, pointing to a row of glowing panels along the base of the platform. "If we hit those in sequence, maybe we can shut down the field." "How do you know?" Emily asked, skeptical. "I don't," Alex admitted. "But it's worth a shot." They worked together, timing their movements to avoid the drones while pressing the panels in order. Each successful press caused the energy field to flicker slightly, weakening its hold. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the field dissipated completely, leaving the platform exposed. "Go!" Alex shouted, pushing Emily forward. They sprinted toward the platform, adrenaline fueling their every step. Just as they reached it, one of the drones fired a final blast. Alex pushed Emily out of the way, taking the hit himself. Pain exploded in his side, and he stumbled, falling to his knees. "Alex!" Emily cried, rushing to his side. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," he gasped, clutching his ribs. "Just keep going." But Emily didn't leave him. She helped him to his feet, supporting his weight as they climbed onto the platform together. The moment they stepped onto it, the arena went silent. The drones froze mid-air, and the glowing patterns on the walls dimmed. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then one of the aliens appeared, clicking and humming softly. It approached them slowly, extending a clawed limb. In its grasp was a small device, a translator module, Alex realized with a jolt. The alien placed the device on the platform and backed away. "What is this?" Emily whispered, staring at the device. "I think it's for us," Alex said, reaching out cautiously. He pressed the button on top, and a robotic voice spoke in halting English. "Trial complete. You have demonstrated resilience and cooperation." "Proceed." Alex and Emily exchanged stunned looks. They had done it. They had passed another test. But what came next was anyone's guess. Back in the holding cell, Alex slumped against the wall, wincing as pain radiated from his side. Emily sat beside him, examining the injury as best she could without proper tools. "It's not too bad," she said finally. "Looks like a bruise, maybe some minor burns, but you need to rest." "I'll be fine," Alex insisted, though his voice was strained. "We've got bigger problems to worry about." "Like what?" Emily asked, raising an eyebrow. "Like why they gave us that translator," Alex replied. "And what they meant by proceed. Do you think they're done testing us?" "I doubt it," Emily said, shaking her head. "But maybe we're getting closer to understanding what they want." Alex sighed, closing his eyes for a moment. "I just hope we're ready for whatever comes next." Later that night, Alex couldn't sleep. His mind raced with questions, possibilities, fears. He glanced at Emily, who was curled up in the corner, fast asleep. Despite everything, he felt grateful to have her by his side. Her determination and quick thinking had saved them more than once. As he sat there in the silence, Alex noticed something unusual. The glowing symbols on the walls of the cell had started to shift, forming patterns he recognized from earlier trials. He leaned forward, squinting to get a better look. Suddenly, one of the symbols lit up brightly, pulsating rhythmically. "What's going on?" Emily mumbled, waking up gradually. "I don't know," Alex said, his voice tense. "But I think They're trying to tell us something. The symbol flashed again, accompanied by a soft hum. Then the wall slid open, revealing one of the aliens standing in the doorway. It gestured for them to follow, its movements urgent. "Do we have a choice?" Emily asked, already getting to her feet. "Not really," Alex replied, grimacing. As he stood, "Let's see what they want now." They followed the alien down a series of winding hallways, their footsteps echoing softly. The ship seemed quieter than usual, almost eerie. Finally, they arrived at a large chamber filled with glowing screens and hovering displays. In the center of the room stood a group of aliens, their multifaceted eyes fixed on Alex and Emily. One of the aliens stepped forward, holding the translator module. It clicked and hummed, then activated the device. A robotic voice spoke again, this time with more clarity. "You have proven valuable," it said. "Your adaptability exceeds expectations. Prepare for the final trial." "The final trial?" Alex echoed, his stomach tightening. "What does that mean?" The alien tilted its head, as if considering the question. Then it clicked rapidly. And the translator responded, "The final trial will determine your worth. Success grants freedom. Failure results in termination." Emily swallowed hard, glancing at Alex. "Well, that's comforting." "We'll figure it out," Alex said, though his voice lacked conviction. "We always do." The aliens ushered them into another arena, this one unlike anything they'd seen before. It was vast and open, with towering walls lined with weapons and tools. In the center of the room stood a group of other humans, men and women, who looked just as confused and frightened as Alex and Emily had been when they first arrived. "What's happening?" one of the captives asked, stepping forward nervously. "I don't know," Alex replied, scanning the group. "But I think we're about to find out." The aliens gathered at the edges of the arena, watching silently. Then one of them raised a clawed limb, and the room came alive with movement. Machines whirred to life, projecting holographic enemies that charged toward the group. Energy beams crisscrossed the air, forcing them to scatter. "This isn't just a test," Emily said, grabbing a nearby weapon. "It's a battle." "And we're outnumbered," Alex added, picking up a tool that looked like a shield. "Stick close to me, we work together." The group quickly organized themselves, forming a loose circle to defend against the holographic attackers. Alex took charge, shouting orders and coordinating their movements. Emily fought alongside him, her quick reflexes making her valuable. The journey back to Earth felt surreal. Alex and Emily were escorted by the aliens to the edge of the forest where they had first been taken. The towering creatures moved silently, their clawed limbs glinting faintly in the moonlight. When they reached the clearing, one of the aliens paused, clicking softly before placing a small metallic object on the ground. It was another translator module, identical to the ones used during their trials. "This is for you," the robotic voice said when Alex activated it. "A reminder of your resilience." Before either of them could respond, the aliens turned and walked away, their forms vanishing into the darkness of the woods. Moments later, the faint hum of the alien ship filled the air as it ascended into the night sky, leaving behind only silence and an eerie sense of finality. Alex picked up the device, turning it over in his hands. "What does this mean?" he asked aloud, though he wasn't sure if he expected an answer. "I think it means they're done with us for now," Emily replied, her voice tinged with uncertainty. She glanced around at the familiar trees and the distant glow of streetlights. "But I don't think we'll ever really know why they took us." Alex nodded slowly, his mind racing. The past few days had been a blur of fear, pain, and survival. Now that they were free, reality began to sink in. They were no longer prisoners of the aliens, but the experience had changed them. There was no going back to the way things were before. "Let's go home," Alex said finally, stuffing the translator into his pocket. "We can figure everything else out later." And back at Alex's house, the two of them sat in the living room, exhausted but unable to sleep. The clock on the wall ticked loudly, breaking the heavy silence. Outside, the world seemed normal, cars driving by, dogs barking in the distance, but inside, Alex and Emily felt like strangers in their own lives. What do we tell people? Emily asked after a while, her voice barely above a whisper. No one will believe us. We don't tell anyone, Alex replied firmly, at least not yet. If word gets out about what happened, who knows what kind of chaos it would cause. Governments might panic, scientists would hunt us down. We'd never have peace again. Emily sighed, leaning back against the couch. You're right, but keeping this secret. It feels wrong, like we owe it to everyone else to warn them. Warn them about what? Alex countered. That aliens exist and they're running tests on humans? Without proof, it sounds crazy. And even if we showed them the translator, they'd just take it away from us. We'd lose any chance of understanding what happened. Emily didn't argue. Deep down, she knew Alex was right. Telling the truth wouldn't help. They needed time to process everything themselves first. Still, the weight of their shared secret hung heavily between them. Over the next few days, Alex and Emily tried to return to their normal routines. Emily went back to her job at a local library, though she found herself distracted, replaying the trials in her mind over and over. Alex avoided his telescope altogether, unable to look at the stars without feeling a chill run down his spine. Every sound outside made him tense, half expecting the aliens to return. One evening, as they sat together in Alex's backyard, Emily broke the silence. Do you think they'll come back? Alex hesitated before answering. I don't know. Maybe this was a one-time thing, a test they needed to run, and now they've moved on. But what if they haven't? Emily pressed. What if they're still watching us? What if there's more to all of this than we realize? Alex frowned, staring at the translator module resting on the table between them. You heard what? The aliens said that we proved our worth. I think they were impressed by how we adapted, how we worked together. Maybe that's why they let us go. Or maybe they're planning something bigger, Emily said darkly. Something we can't even imagine. Her words sent a shiver through Alex, but he forced himself to stay calm. Even if they are, there's nothing we can do about it right now. All we can do is keep moving forward and be ready just in case. Despite their attempts to move on, both Alex and Emily found themselves drawn to the translator module. It became a source of fascination, a tangible link to the aliens and their mysterious motives. One night, after hours of experimenting with the device, Alex discovered something new, a series of coordinates embedded within its memory. Look at this, he said, showing Emily the glowing numbers displayed on the screen. It's a location somewhere. Deep in space. How do you know? Emily asked, leaning closer. It's written in the same symbols we saw on the ship, Alex explained. And these numbers match patterns I've seen in star charts. This has to be important, Emily frowned, her brow furrowing. Do you think it's a message? A clue about where the aliens came from or where they're going? Maybe, Alex said thoughtfully. Or maybe it's a warning. Either way, it's the closest thing we have to answers. For the next several days, Alex spent every spare moment studying the coordinates. He cross-referenced them with astronomical databases, searching for anything that might explain their significance. Meanwhile, Emily focused on piecing together the fragments of information they had gathered during their captivity, the clicks and hums of the aliens' language, the strange devices they had encountered, the patterns in the trials. We need to document everything, Emily insisted one afternoon as they pored over notes spread across Alex's kitchen table. If we ever want to understand what happened to us, we have to write it all down. Alex agreed. Together, they began compiling a detailed record of their experiences, including sketches of the aliens, descriptions of the ship, and theories about the purpose of the trials. It was slow, painstaking work, but it gave them a sense of control. Over the chaos they had endured. As they worked, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. He often caught himself glancing out the window, expecting to see a shadowy figure lurking in the bush. Once, late at night, he swore he heard a faint humming sound coming from the woods, similar to the noise made by the alien ship. But when he investigated, there was nothing there. Are you okay? Emily asked one morning, noticing the dark circles under his eyes. You look like you haven't slept in days. I'm fine, Alex lied, forcing a smile. Just Thinking too much? Emily studied him for a moment before speaking. You don't have to pretend with me, Alex. I know this isn't easy. None of it is, but we're in this together, remember? Her words brought a lump to his throat. For the first time in days, he allowed himself to admit how scared he was not just of the aliens, but of the unknown future ahead of them. What? If they come back, he whispered. What if they decide we weren't good enough after all? They won't, Emily said firmly, placing a hand on his shoulder. We survived their tests. We proved ourselves. Whatever happens next, we'll face it together. Her confidence steadied him, reminding him of the strength they had shown during the trials. Slowly, he began to feel a flicker of hope. No matter what lay ahead, they had each other, and that made all the difference. Weeks passed, and life gradually returned to some semblance of normalcy. Alex resumed his stargazing, though he avoided looking directly at the section of the sky where the alien ship had disappeared. Emily threw herself into her work at the library, finding solace in the quiet routine. Yet neither of them could fully escape the lingering questions about their ordeal. Then, one night, as Alex sat alone in his backyard, the translator module began to glow unexpectedly. Startled, he picked it up and activated it. The robotic voice spoke, its tone urgent. Warning detected. Hostile presence approaching. Prepare for contact. Alex's heart raced as he stared at the device. Emily, he shouted, rushing inside. They're coming back. When Emily joined him, her face pale with fear, they both knew their lives were about to change again. The aliens hadn't forgotten them, and whatever was coming, it was far from over. The warning from the translator module echoed in Alex's mind as he and Emily stood frozen in the living room. The robotic voice had been clear. A hostile presence was approaching. But what did that mean? Were the aliens returning for them? Or was something or someone else coming? We need to figure out what this means, Emily said, her voice trembling slightly. If it's another ship or, I don't know, some kind of threat, we have to be ready. Alex nodded, though his thoughts were racing. Let's start with the coordinates. Maybe they'll tell us where the danger is coming from. Together, they grabbed the translator and hurried outside to Alex's telescope. The night sky stretched above them, vast and endless. Alex adjusted the telescope, entering the coordinates into its tracking system. After a few tense moments, the lens focused on a distant point of light, a faint, pulsating glow that seemed to shift colors subtly. What is that? Emily asked, peering through the eyepiece. It doesn't look like a star. It's not, Alex replied, his voice low. I think it's a ship. Or maybe a station. Something artificial. As they watched, the glow grew brighter, almost as if it were moving closer. A cold knot formed in Alex's stomach. Whatever it wasn't far away, and it was heading straight for Earth. The next morning, Alex and Emily decided to act. They couldn't sit idly by while a potential threat loomed over their planet. Armed with the knowledge from the translator module and their own observations, they drove to a nearby observatory. It was small but well-equipped, and Alex hoped they could use its advanced telescopes to gather more information. Inside the observatory, they found Dr. Lavra Bennett, an astronomer who had helped Alex calibrate his telescope months earlier. She greeted them warmly, though her expression turned curious when she saw the urgency in their faces. Lavra, we need your help, Alex began, cutting straight to the point. We've discovered something unusual in the sky, something big. And it might be dangerous. Dr. Bennett raised an eyebrow, but didn't question them further. Instead, she led them to the main telescope and allowed them access to its controls. Using the coordinates from the translator, they located the glowing object again. This time, the image was clearer, revealing intricate details, a massive structure shaped like a disk, with glowing panels lining its edges. That's no asteroid, Dr. Bennett murmured, her eyes widening. What is it? We're not sure, Emily admitted. But it's getting closer. And we think it's connected to something else. Dr. Bennett glanced between them, sensing there was more to the story. You two aren't telling me everything, are you? Alex hesitated before speaking. There's no easy way to explain? So I'll just say it. We were taken by aliens. They tested us, ran experiments, and then let us go. Now, whatever this thing is, it's heading toward Earth, and we think it might be trouble." To their surprise, Dr. Bennett didn't laugh or dismiss them. Instead, she nodded slowly. "I've seen things in my research that defy explanation. If you're telling the truth, and I believe you are, we need to warn someone." With Dr. Bennett's help, Alex and Emily compiled their findings into a report. They included sketches of the alien ship, descriptions of the trials, and detailed images of the approaching object. Then they contacted a trusted government agency, using an anonymous tip line to ensure their identities remained hidden. Within hours, the response came. A team of scientists and military personnel arrived at the observatory, eager to investigate. At first, they were skeptical of Alex and Emily's claims, but the evidence was undeniable. The glowing object was real, and it was moving fast. "They're calling it an unidentified extraterrestrial vessel," one of the scientists explained. "Based on its trajectory, it will reach Earth's orbit within days." "What happens then?" Emily asked, her voice tight with worry. "We prepare," the scientist replied grimly, "and hope it's friendly." As news of the approaching object spread, panic began to ripple across the globe. Governments scrambled to mobilize defenses, while media outlets speculated wildly about the nature of the threat. Alex and Emily stayed close to the observatory, working alongside Dr. Bennett and the investigation team. Every day brought new discoveries and new fears. One evening, as Alex and Emily sat together in the observatory's control room, the translator module lit up again. This time, the robotic voice delivered a different message. "Hostile forces detected. Prepare for conflict. Your actions will determine survival." Alex stared at the device, his heart pounding. "Conflict? What does that mean?" "It means we're not just dealing with one ship," Emily said, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "There's more than one side involved." Before they could process the implications, alarms blared throughout the observatory. On the monitors, multiple objects appeared in the sky, smaller ships breaking off from the larger structure. They were descending rapidly, their paths converging on various locations around the world. "This is it," Dr. Bennett said, her voice barely audible over the chaos. "They're here." In the days that followed, humanity faced its greatest challenge yet. The smaller ships launched attacks on cities, military bases, and key infrastructure. The larger structure remained in orbit, seemingly directing the assault. Despite the overwhelming odds, humans fought back with everything they had. Fighter jets took to the skies, ground forces mobilized, and civilians banded together to protect their homes. Through it all, Alex and Emily played a crucial role. Using the translator module, they deciphered fragments of the aliens' communication, providing vital intelligence to the defense teams. Their experience with the insect-like creatures gave them unique insights into their tactics and motivations. "We've seen how they think," Alex told a group of military leaders during a strategy meeting. "They adapt quickly, but they rely on patterns. If we can disrupt those patterns, we might stand a chance." The leaders listened, incorporating Alex and Emily's suggestions into their plans. Slowly but surely, the tide began to turn. Humanity's resilience and ingenuity shone through, proving that even against impossible odds, they would not give up. The final battle took place in space. A coalition of international forces launched a daring counterattack, targeting the larger structure with every weapon at their disposal. Alex and Emily watched from the observatory, their hearts in their throats, as the ships clashed in a dazzling display of light and destruction. For hours, the outcome hung in the balance. Then suddenly, the larger structure began to break apart, its glowing panels dimming as it drifted lifelessly through the void. Cheers erupted around the world as the smaller ships retreated, vanishing into the depths of space. "It's over," Emily whispered, tears streaming down her face. "We did it." Alex pulled her into a tight embrace, relief washing over him. "Yeah, we did." In the aftermath, humanity began to rebuild. The scars of the conflict would take years to heal, but the experience had united people in ways no one could have predicted. Alex and Emily became symbols of hope, their story inspiring countless others to believe in the power of courage and cooperation. As for the aliens who had first abducted them, their fate remained a mystery. Had they been allies, enemies, or something else entirely? Alex and Emily didn't know, and perhaps they never would. One night, as they stood together under the stars, the translator module glowed softly in Alex's hand. The robotic voice spoke one last time. Your strength has been noted. Humanity's future is uncertain, but your actions have secured a chance. Farewell. Then the device went dark, its purpose fulfilled. Alex looked at Emily, a small smile forming on his lips. Whatever comes next, we'll face it together. Emily nodded, her gaze fixed on the horizon. Together. And as they stood there, surrounded by the beauty and mystery of the universe, they knew one thing for certain. Humanity's journey was far from over.